Okay, so now we're doing 7.3, economic growth. How can we measure economic growth? How is productivity, technology, and trade related? We're going to talk about population growth and government policies, what they have on growth. Why we need people to save and invest, because that is related to economic growth, and how financial institutions are going to affect households and businesses. And we're going to tie that into the savings and investment to how they help. Now, here's our terms. Real GDP per capita is where you take the real GDP calculation and divide it by the total population of the country. This is a figure that's used to determine the health of a country, especially when we're relating it to, say, another country. Canada has a higher one than we do, so you would say they have more leisure time. Capital deepening. This is where you increase the amount of capital per worker. There's two types of capital. You have physical capital and human capital. So I could buy better equipment to help you with your job. Like maybe you get a better laptop that's faster, can do more. Or maybe it's I send you to school. Maybe you're a mechanic and I'm sending you to school because there's this new way of changing the oil. Maybe you have to buy you products too. So that'd be both physical and human capital, but it's going to increase your productivity so that you can change the oil faster. Saving. This is any income not used for consumption, leftover money at the end of the month. Savings rate would be the proportion of your disposable income that's saved. That can vary paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people recommend when you get your first job to set aside a certain amount and put it in savings, which you don't know you're not going to miss. Usually they say 10%. Capital formation. This is the accumulation of savings made available for investment. What's an example of this? Maybe you're saving for a car, and so you have to put money aside. You don't have it all at once. Or maybe you're saving for a house. You're accumulating savings so that you can invest in getting that car, invest in getting that house, maybe invest in fixing your car. Technological progress. This is where we increase efficiency. We're producing more outputs, but we're not producing more inputs. For example, if I work and in an hour, I can produce 40 widgets. Yeah, widgets is fictional. In 1 hour, I can produce 40 widgets, but you either send me to training and I get better and can produce 50 widgets, or maybe you buy physical capital, a machine that allows me in 1 hour to produce 50. That's technological progress because I'm producing more in the same hour. I'm not producing more because you gave me another hour to do it. In the same hour, I'm producing more. Now, how do we measure economic growth? We tend to look back at the past and compare generations. 125 years ago, you would have owned an ice box. They really were an ice box, not a refrigerator. If you've ever watched Frozen and the opening credits of the first one, you've got Sven and Kristoff, and they have the whole song where they're making the ice and they have the big blocks of ice. That used to be delivered to your home. It was put in a cabinet on the bottom, and there was a cabinet up top. You put your food up here because that block of ice kept everything cold and would keep your food cold. Now, if you lived in Florida, ice probably ain't gonna last long. If you lived in Alaska, might not need an ice box. Just set it all outside in the snow, depending on where you live. A lot of people didn't have electricity, so you had to do fireplaces and candles, things like that to have light. Furnaces powered by gas. And probably not even a car. Maybe you had a horse and buggy or just a horse. As far as material possessions go, we are much better off than we were 125 years ago, even 100 years ago. And the reason is economic growth. Now, this is a cast iron stove. When I ask students, there's always some in class that go, yes, I've seen one before. Someone in my family has one. They're considered antiques now. They are made of cast iron. So if you've ever had one of those black skillets, people, Southern people especially, like to do bacon in it and cornbread and all kinds of things in cast iron. It gives a more even cook. They're heavy. Sometimes I have to use two hands. They're very, very heavy. So imagine how heavy this stove is. This used to be in the center of the house, and not only would you cook your food on it, but it would be what would heat the house. So on really cold days, people would sleep around the cast iron stove, the furnace, to keep warm. We can't just look at GDP per capita, or we can't just look at GDP, because there's a problem if we just look at GDP. If you look here at the very first graph, oops, I didn't mean to change it. If we look here at the very first graph, you're going to see that real GDP has increased over 20 years. But if you look at the population has also increased over 20 years. But has our real GDP per capita, per person, gone up? It could be the same, or because of the increase in population, it could go down. So that's why we look at this real GDP per capita, because this is what tells us when we adjust for the population growth, we're still increasing the standard of living. We still are. Now, capital deepening. I talked about this in earlier with the vocabulary. Again, this can be buying you new tools, buying you a better computer, or certain things that can make people more productive. It could be sending you to a school that gives you knowledge so you can use new technology to make you better. This is a term they use to describe anything we're doing to try to increase the amount of output per worker. Here's an example of capital deepening. You have the two different kinds of capital. You got physical and human. So I can buy you something, or I can send you to school. Capital deepening is a win-win-win, because it's a win for the companies, it's a win for the workers, and it's a win for economic growth. Well, I said 3 wins. For businesses, if my employees are producing more, like more per hour, that's great. Yay. That's going to increase my output here. I'm going to have more products to sell. That's going to be bigger profits. Yay. I want to do that. How does it benefit the workers? Well, if we are making more profit because we're able to make more, it's going to have an increased labor demand, a derived demand for labor. And when there's a greater demand for workers, it's going to cause more people get a job, but it's going to increase wages. So the existing people that are already there are going to be able to get wage increases. It's a win-win. And then the third win is both of these things promote overall economic growth. So we want people to do capital deepening. We want this to happen. It's very obvious. We need companies investing in capital deepening. That takes us to our next one, okay? Job fairs. This is where people find employees with the skills, okay? But for the capital deepening, skip a little here, we need people to invest money and save money so that businesses can borrow for this process of capital deepening. Capital deepening is a win-win-win. But if there's no money to borrow, you can't invest in capital deepening. So we need businesses, we need individuals to invest money so that way they can invest in capital deepening. And again, any income not used for consumption is called savings. Here's how savings leads to capital deepening. This is why we need people saving money. Here you've got Shauna. She makes $30,000 a year. She's got to spend $25,000 housing, car, food, all her expenses. So that gives her savings of $5,000. Well, she doesn't need to just let it sit in her pocket. She's going to invest $3,000 of it, okay, or 3/5 to I think it's 60%. 60% of her savings to a mutual fund, not as liquid. It's not a rainy day fund. It's not as liquid. She puts $2,000 in a rainy day bank account. Very, very liquid. You need one of these. What if you have surgery? What if you your car breaks down? Things like that. The mutual fund money is then made available to firms. They can do capital deepening with this. If a firm's getting money, they can invest in capital deepening. The $2,000 she puts in the savings account, after you keep that reserve requirement, it can be loaned out to businesses for capital deepening or mortgages, things like that. So we need people to save money and invest it so this capital deepening works. It's very, very important. I'm going to go back to this slide on the job fair because in class, like I really talked about your resume. Your resume is a list of your human capital. Every experience you've had, all the education, it's your human capital. When you go to job fairs, your generation has a lot worse than mine. I used to go into an employer and be like, hi, I'm Amy Edwards. Here's my resume. I'd love to come and work for you. Might give you a brief, I've previously worked here. I love this, blah, blah, blah. Shake your hand and leave. Well, that employer has gotten to see me, see my personality, how I interact with you. Maybe they go, I liked her. I really liked her. She was good. She had a confidence. I'm going to interview her without even looking at my resume. Okay. Your generation, everything is electronic. You just submit your resume. So if I'm an employer, I'm sitting here going, well, their qualifications don't look good. Don't want to interview them. This one's qualifications look good. Want to interview them. And I've never met you. Do I want to hire somebody if it's a degree required job as a 4.0 or a 2.3? 4.0. But what you miss out on, and people that haven't done a lot of interviewing, the 4.0 person could be super intelligent, a bookworm, like they love studying, but maybe they have no interpersonal skills. And this job requires somebody to work with people and get along, and there's a big social aspect to it. Probably not going to be a good fit for the job. That 2.3 GPA person might have great social skills, but just hated studying. But maybe I can teach them stuff and make them good. They have their requirement of the college degree, so I can hire them. But maybe I see things in them where I get why they had a 2.3. They're social. They're not a bookworm. That person could be better. But the problem is a 2.3 going to get me to the interview? That's the struggle y'all have now. And it stinks. It does kind of stink. Here, this says a penny saved is a penny not stimulating the economy. It comes from the old saying that a penny saved is a penny earned. And that's true. But a penny is going to do nothing in this day and age to stimulate the economy. Why? Because you can't buy anything with a penny. We need substantial savings invested for people to do capital deepening. Now, if we talked about an economy that had, we've got economy with a government sector, we've got foreign trade. How does population growth affect capital accumulation? This is really, really interesting because, excuse me. No, I have a dry throat. How does this affect capital accumulation? It can, because it can make things more difficult to accumulate. There's more people. It also can make things better too. Because you saw in the one where we had, even though we're increasing the population, we are increasing our real GDP. Our real GDP per capita is still increasing. Now, population growth can affect the economy. We have a really good GDP per capita in the United States, but Canada is better. Canada has a higher GDP per capita, and so they have a standard of living that people can do more fun things, more leisure activities. In America, we like to work people to death. We do. Yeah, we really do. In Europe, everybody's closed down for like an hour in the middle of the day for everybody to just have leisure time. They like for people to take holidays too. They believe employees need a holiday to work better for them. Yeah, it says nobody in America. My brother-in-law worked overseas, and every 6 weeks he was required to take a vacation. Yeah, I'd love that. force me to take a vacation, yeah, I'm in. Another key source to economic growth is technology. If you think about things like, I mean, we've had major technological innovations in your lifetime, cell phones, computers, all kinds of things. The cell phone and the internet are probably the two biggest ones. It makes things more efficient. You're doing your homework for me on a cell phone. Imagine if we had my homework on paper and pencil. You can redo it as many times as you want. Well, here, Miss Edwards, here's submission 1. I have to take it. I have to grade it. Oh, you missed some. Here, take it back. This is day 2. You correct answers. You give it back to me. Oh, they're still wrong. Here, now we're in day 3. Yeah. Now you're on a phone. Oh, didn't get them all right. Let's go back and fix it. Oh, didn't get them all right. Go back and fix it. Oh, got them all right. 30 seconds have passed. Yeah, more productive. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we measure technological progress? These are some of the first smartwatches. I honestly don't know what they were called. They're probably obsolete now. Now everybody tends to have a Apple Watch or some type of Samsung watch, Android watch. Mm-hmm. They actually, watches over here on the far right, were outdated. People stopped using them once they had cell phones, but now it's becoming back to be a staple and a fashion accessory again. Technology can improve our GDP, because look at this orange section here, this beautiful color orange. When we have increases in technology, it can boost our gross domestic product because people are going to be more productive. It's just simple. We're producing more when we have these technological advances. Now, corporate training. I don't care what job you have. You might graduate from high school. You might graduate from trade school, graduate from college, and go, I'm never doing school again. That's a lie. You are lying to yourself, because I don't care what job you have, you will always be doing some type of training. Whether it's you get new equipment and you have to train, a new computer program and you have to train. As teachers, we have to do 30 hours of training every day to make sure that we're constantly improving and staying up with education and the changes in the times. And here are some companies. GE had its first corporate university in 1956. Apple has Apple U, started in 2008. McDonald's has Hamburger U. How many people knew that? 5,000 people attended a year. So if you're going to manage a McDonald's or own a franchise, you got to go to Hamburger U. Corporations spend an average of about $60 billion annually on internal training. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that can go to paychecks. So why do they spend it? It makes them more efficient and more profitable, and then they can still pay their employees more. Because 55% of companies and corporate universities report that they did increase productivity. And if you look, in 1990, after-tax profits were only $225 billion. Yeah, only. But I say that because in 2012, it was $1.8 trillion. Yeah, that's almost like 7 times higher. It's pretty big. And that is the end of 7.3. I'll see you at 7.4 to talk about unemployment.